All right, let's kick things off. We're diving deep into musical keys today.
Awesome.
This one's especially for you, actually, since you mentioned being super interested in learning even more about music production. Should be right up your alley. We're using this awesome guide. It's called Understanding Musical Keys.
Yeah, it's really comprehensive.
It is.
Yeah.
And we'll also be pulling in some insights on how keys actually get used out in the wild, like in different genres, pop, electronic music, even across huge platforms like Spotify. It's crazy, right? The key you choose can literally make a song sound happy, sad, mysterious. Who knew?
Right. It's all about that emotional energy.
Exactly. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's start with the basics. When we talk about a key in music, what are we even talking about?
Okay, so think of it like this. Keys are kind of like the foundation of a song's overall sound, its tonal landscape.
Yeah, interesting.
Like a house needs a solid foundation to stand tall, a piece of music needs a key to make sure all the notes and chords fit together nicely. Makes sense, right?
Yeah, totally. So like if I'm starting a new track, picking the key is one of the first things I should do, almost like setting the mood from the get-go.
Absolutely. It's a super fundamental decision that'll shape the entire feel of your track. Now, the building blocks of keys are scales,
Okay,
which are basically specific sets of notes. You've got major and minor scales. Those are the most common ones you'll come across.
gotcha. Now, major keys,
Hmm.
I've always felt like they just had this naturally bright, uplifting quality, like a burst of sunshine.
Yeah, great way to put it. Major keys tend to give you those feelings of happiness, optimism, all that good stuff. It's why they're used so much in genres like pop, house music, anything that wants to create a good vibe.
Yeah.
It all comes down to the spacing between the notes and the scale. It's what gives it that distinct major sound.
Right. And then on the flip side, you've got minor keys,
Hmm.
which have always felt a bit more, I don't know, introspective to me. Melancholy, even.
Exactly. They often bring up feelings of sadness, longing, or even this sense of intensity. Think about like those really powerful ballads,
Hmm.
or the music they use in suspenseful movies. They often tap into the emotional depth of minor keys. Again, it all boils down to the way those notes are arranged in the scale. That's what makes it sound minor.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So our source actually points out some really cool specific examples here.
Oh, yeah.
Like it mentions that C major, for instance, has a very neutral, balanced feel.
Yeah, that's why it's like everywhere in pop music. Super simple, easy to work with. Those consonant intervals create a sense of effortless joy, like pure optimism. Really versatile too, works great with tons of instruments and vocal style.
Wow, that's really interesting. And then the guide also points out A minor is having this especially melancholic quality.
Oh, A minor, yeah. It's all about yearning, introspection, that kind of vibe. The way it's structured just lends itself really well to expressing those deeper emotions. Makes sense why it's so common in genres like techno, drum, and bass. And of course, we can't forget about D minor. Some people even call it the saddest key. I mean, even Beethoven loved D minor.
Wow.
It just has this incredible power to convey longing, sorrow, all those deep feelings.
Cool. So we've covered the major and minor keys, which feel kind of like the basic colors on our musical palette, right?
Right.
But I hear there's a whole world of less common keys out there just waiting to be explored.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And this is where things get really interesting, especially for music producers who want to add something special to their sound, push those creative boundaries.
Like our source mentions F sharp major as being bold and energetic.
Yes,
Yeah.
like instantly brings to mind a huge festival.
Mm.
Bright, shimmering quality definitely packs a punch, gets the crowd moving.
Uh-huh. Can almost hear it now.
Yeah.
And then there's D flat major, which the guide describes as having a lush romantic quality.
Yeah, D flat major. It's often linked to genres like chill out, down tempo music, where it's all about creating this relaxed atmospheric vibe. It's a bit more complex, which gives it a sophisticated feel.
Interesting. And then there's G sharp minor, which just sounds mysterious.
Just sharp minor. Oh, yeah. It's got this haunting, almost ethereal quality, often pops up in film scores, ambient music, anywhere you want to create a sense of wonder, mystery.
So experimenting with these less common keys, it's like a chef discovering new spices. Brings out all these different flavors and creates a completely different experience.
Totally. Exactly like that.
But wait, there's more. The source mentions this concept of modes, which sounds pretty advanced. What are modes exactly, and how do they fit into all of this?
Okay, so modes are basically like variations on the major scale.
Okay.
Think of them as like adding subtle shifts in mood and feel, but still within the same key.
So instead of just having a straight up major or minor sound, modes give you even more options,
Yeah.
like more shades or hues within the same color family.
Exactly. Each mode has its own unique character, evokes different emotions. Like the Dorian mode has a really bluesy, soulful feel, while the Phrygian mode sounds dark and exotic.
Ooh, I like the sound of that. The guide describes the Lydian mode as dreamy and ethereal, which sounds pretty cool.
Lydium, oh yeah, it's often used to create that sense of wonder, that otherworldly vibe. That's because of that characteristic raised fourth degree, gives it a really bright, shimmering quality that's quite distinctive.
Wow, we've gone from the basics of major and minor keys all the way to these intricate modes. It's pretty amazing to see how much depth there is to all of this.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
But I'm also really curious how these concepts play out in the real world. Like, do certain keys dominate certain genres? I bet there are some interesting trends there.
Oh, absolutely. Let's dive into that next. I think you'll be surprised by what we uncover. Like, let's start with pop music. You know, if you analyze the keys of, like, the top Billboard hits,
Yeah.
you'd probably start to notice a trend.
What would it be? What are the go-to keys for those super catchy radio-friendly tunes?
Well, it seems like popular music leans pretty heavily on those familiar major keys.
Makes sense.
C major and G major, to be exact. And it's not just a coincidence.
I mean, I'm guessing it has something to do with their, upbeat and accessible nature.
You got it. They just have this inherent brightness and optimism, right? That resonates with pretty much everyone. Those major keys evoke feelings of joy, simplicity. It's perfect for those feel-good pop anthems that we all love.
Yeah. It's like they tap into this, like, universal sense of happiness. And I guess from a practical standpoint, those keys are pretty easy to play, too,
Yeah,
especially for beginners, which maybe explains why they're so common in pop music.
that's a great point. They're straightforward, versatile, and adaptable to a ton of different instruments and vocal styles. Okay, but let's switch gears for a sec. Let's head over to the dance floor. Could you imagine, like, a techno track in C major?
Not really. What does our research say about, like, the key preferences in EDM?
All right, so according to Beatport, which, by the way, is this massive online platform for electronic music,
Right, yeah.
they actually have a clear preference for minor keys.
That makes a lot more sense. Minor keys definitely fit that darker, more intense vibe you get in a lot of electronic music.
Exactly. Keys like A minor, C minor, E minor, those are the heavy hitters in EDM. They provide this sense of depth, complexity. Really fuels those hypnotic grooves and those driving rhythms.
Oh, yeah, totally. It's funny when we talk about contrasting sounds, it makes me think about film scores.
Yeah.
Do you find that certain keys are more popular in cinematic music, too?
Oh, absolutely. Film composers use a huge range of keys to create those specific moods and emotions, right? Like, they might use a really heroic sounding key, like D major, for big epic scenes.
Yeah.
Or they might use a haunting minor key, like B minor, to underscore moments of suspense or drama. It just depends.
It's crazy how a simple change in key can completely transform the feeling of a scene.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about pop music, EDM, film scores. But what about platforms like Spotify, where you have this massive mix of genres and styles all together? What does the data say about key preferences in that kind of environment?
So Spotify's data is really interesting. G major and C major are still up there at the top.
I guess that reflects how popular pop music is, right?
Yeah, probably. But overall, we see a much more balanced distribution across the board.
So it's not just a major key free-for-all.
Not at all. A minor and E minor are strong contenders. Shows how versatile those keys are across different genres. And even those less common keys that we were talking about earlier, like D sharp minor, G sharp minor, they're all there too.
Yeah.
Really highlights the diversity and that creative spirit of musicians around the world.
It's nice to see there's still room for experimentation, pushing those boundaries, But I do wonder, like, if I'm a musician, should I actually pay attention to these key trends? Or should I just go with what feels right creatively?
That's a good question. I mean, I think it's definitely valuable to be aware of these trends. It gives you a little insight into what resonates with listeners in different contexts. So, like, if you're going for a radio-friendly pop hit, starting with those tried and true major keys might not be a bad idea. But if you're writing a film score, those minor keys might be your best bet.
It's all about understanding how keys work, right?
Yeah. It's about knowing the emotional language of keys and using that knowledge to create music that really communicates what you're going for.
Exactly. It's not about following a bunch of rules or chasing trends. It's about using this knowledge as a tool to unlock your own creativity and make choices that feel authentic to you.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So, like, think of it this way. If you want to express joy, optimism, A major key, like C major or G major, might be the way to go. But if you're going for something darker, moodier, more introspective, those minor keys are your friends.
Makes sense. And if you want to get really adventurous.
Those less common keys, those modes, they're just waiting for you to explore them.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, the key is to experiment. Mess
Okay.
around in your DAW, see how different keys make you feel, and just trust your gut. The more you do it, the more you'll develop an intuition for which keys work best for the emotions you want to express.
Right. It's almost like learning a new language, you know? The language of musical keys.
Yeah.
The more fluent you become, the better you'll be able to communicate your ideas and connect with your listeners on a deeper level.
Yeah, and what's really cool is that understanding keys doesn't just make you a better musician, it also makes you a better listener.
Oh, how so?
Well, once you start to recognize those emotional cues that are kind of baked into different keys, you start to hear music in a whole new way.
You start to notice the little changes in mood. The way composers use keys to tell stories, to build suspense, to evoke a certain feeling. It just adds this whole other layer to listening to music.
It totally does. So, my advice to any aspiring musicians or just curious listeners out there, don't be afraid to just dive in and explore. Let your curiosity be your guide, and who knows what musical treasures you might discover.
What key will you explore next?
That's a great question. And it really just shows you how much is going on beneath the surface, right? Like when we listen to music,
Cool.
and how impactful something as seemingly simple as like choosing a major or minor key, a common one or a more unusual one, can be.
Yeah, definitely. So we've gone over the major and minor scales, those
Yeah.
modes, and how keys are actually being used across all these genres and platforms. What's like the biggest takeaway you hope people get from all of this?
Like ultimately, it's all about understanding how keys work, how they make you feel, and using that knowledge to just express yourself authentically through your music.
So it's not about following a bunch of rules or chasing after like whatever's trendy.
No.
It's about using this knowledge to unlock your own creativity and make choices that are unique to you.
Exactly. Think about it this way. If you want to express joy, optimism, a bright key like C major or G major might be perfect.
Yeah.
But if you're going for something, darker, moodier, more introspective, those minor keys are going to be your best friend.
Right. And if you want to get really experimental.
Those less common keys, those modes, they're out there waiting for you to explore them.
So cool. So much to discover.
I know, right? The key is to experiment. Play around in your DAW, try out different keys, just listen to how they make you feel, and go with your gut. Honestly, the more you do that, the more you'll develop an intuition for which keys just work best for the kind of music you want to make.
It's almost like you're learning a whole new language, huh?
Yeah.
The language of musical keys. And the better you get at it, the more you'll be able to communicate your ideas and connect with your listeners on like a totally different level.
And here's another thing that's really cool. Understanding keys. It doesn't just make you a better musician, it can make you a better listener too.
Oh, wow. How so?
Once you start picking up on those emotional cues that are kind of baked into different keys, you start to hear music in a totally different way.
Yeah, you start to notice those subtle shifts in mood. The ways composers use keys to tell stories, to create suspense, to bring back memories. It's like this whole other layer to the music.
I know. It's amazing. So to all the aspiring musicians and music lovers out there, my advice is this. Don't be afraid to dive in. Explore. Experiment. Let your curiosity be your guide, and I bet you'll discover some really cool things.
What key will you explore next? That's a great question. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us.